7:14 on a beautiful Wednesday morning. We're joined by telephone by Meredith Novak, who's the Arkansas Regional Director of FIRST. First, are you there?
Hi there. I'm in beautiful Manchester, New Hampshire.
Well, good for you. You like it up there?
Yes, it's nice. It's known for being the kind of hotbed of presidential politics, and I think Hillary may be around today. But the real story in Manchester, New Hampshire is it's the headquarters of Dean Kamen's nonprofit organization, Foundation for the Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology.
Wow. So you're I'm just going to back off and let you tell folks what you're doing.
Okay, I'm here with the other regional directors from United States, Israel, Mexico, Canada, and Australia. And we have our yearly conference here to kind of get together and discuss our best practices on how we run our robotics programs in our particular areas, in case, mine is Arkansas, of course. And we're also here, one of our sessions has been on how to get our state and federal officials to put more support into project-based learning, STEM activities. We hear all this talk that we have to have these H-1B visas because we don't have enough STEM workers in America. Well, we need to be taking some of that H-1B visa money and applying it toward educating our own American students so that we have the technology workforce that our companies are demanding. So that's one of our initiatives. So we'll be going to Washington, D.C. next week with 8 students and a college student and 3 adult members of the Baxter Bomb Squad Team 16. So we're going to be advocating along with almost 300 other FIRST students and mentors for the reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act and for some action to be done in kind of tax, immigration, H-1B visa laws to accommodate more American STEM programs like FIRST.
Interesting. So can you give us a brief history of what you've done, say, in the past 7 years with FIRST?
Well, I've done 15 years of FIRST. In fact, our team has been there in Mountain Home for 20 years, right?
Has it been that long?
So last year was our 20th season in Mountain Home with the Baxter Bomb Squad. So we, in the last 4 years, we've grown to like 20 teams in Arkansas, and our teams have done really, really well. 67% of our teams have won awards, which is huge. We had 7 teams last year representing Arkansas at the First World Championship. So our teams are very quality teams. We have a lot of interest in Arkansas. I could have 60 teams if we had the money. And so that money's got to come from the corporations that support programs like this because they need the workers that we're sending them, and the government who needs, high-paying jobs and people that send them lots of tax money. So we're kind of in a two-pronged approach there, and we're not asking for taxes to be raised. We're not asking for, obviously, I don't want my taxes raised. We're just asking for a smarter reallocation of the money that's now being spent for other programs to kind of be reallocated to programs like FIRST, project-based mentor programs.
When I was working with Curtis Coleman during the gubernatorial campaign, he brought to our attention that like 45 years ago, there was 30 to 40 vocational technical schools in Arkansas. Now we're down to 3. Now, is this something along that same line to where we're slacking or we're falling off in vocational technical?
Absolutely. And what we do, we're not going to come in and be a classroom project or a classroom program. We think that kids are in classrooms too much, and that's just not really the best way to learn. We think the best way to learn is for a student to work alongside a professional mentor and learn the skills that they need to, Woody Flowers, who's one of our founders, says that being on a FIRST team is like an extra 2 years of high school and gives you like a year ahead start in college because you get that experience with that mentor. I mean, our teams have shops, have metal shops, have CNC mills, have tools that used to be in those VOTEC places that were in the schools. So we're kind of replacing that, but in a different kind of way. It's after school, it's with professional mentors, it's not with a teacher in a classroom. And they have an actual project. ASA has coding in every school. That's fantastic. But if you write a computer program and you just look at it on a screen, you compile it and look, I've coded something. But unless you have a machine that you can animate with that code, oh, that works, or look, I'm just going in a circle. It's really not the entire process. So FIRST gives them a program that allows them to use their programming to animate something they've built. So it just kind of completes the process to give them an idea of what it's like to build something and make it work.
So it's kind of like me as the mechanic. I can have a box of tools and say, wow, look at all those wrenches. But they're not doing me any good unless I can turn the bolt with them.
And then you make mistakes, and you learn from your mistakes.
Sure.
And
So I
you
grab
have
the
a
9/16
professional
and
mentor
8.5 inch, you know.
sitting beside you going, maybe you need to turn it the other way. Oh, that works, right. Because you don't discover engineering. You don't put kids in a corner with expensive things and they just figure it out on their own. Some of them can, but that's pretty frustrating.
Wow. So what you're trying to do is just basically get a little bit more of your slice of the pie to get more implementation in our schools around the state of Arkansas.
Correct. I mean, for like $250,000 a year, we could have 50 high school first teams. That's a lot of impact for not a lot of money compared to the money they stir around Washington. The stuff that just flies across the crumbs. Budget dust,
Did you say
I like to call it.
250,000?
Yes.
That's what they budget for lunch. I mean,
I know, right? So it's not really in the scope and scheme of things overall very expensive. I mean, for $500,000 a year, we could have one of the premier programs in the country.
Interesting. And so, I look back when I was in, say, junior high and high school, none of the things that y'all are working on right now ever existed. I mean, we heard of computers, but to actually see a computer, you would have to go inside a huge manufacturing plant where they had a separate room. You know what I'm saying?
And
because I graduated
60-degree air conditioning right.
And then when the
Exactly.
first PC started coming out, wow, and now, seeing what I have seen with the robotics teams here is just totally amazing what these young people are learning
And we get different controls every year, different technology every year. These kids get the cutting edge technology is given to them, basically donated to them. They get the very latest things. A lot of companies want our first teams to kind of troubleshoot their latest technology. Like this year, Qualcomm is donating millions of dollars worth of little phone processors. One of our robotics competitions, First Tech Challenge, is going to be using Android Qualcomm phone processors to operate their robots.
Wow.
I mean, how cool is that, right? Everybody's got a phone in their pocket. Now you can operate a robot.
Well, let me tell you where it's at. You know how I am with sound systems. I've been doing sound system work since 1968.
Right.
One of our local churches has the type of system that the gentleman that installed it from Nashville, Tennessee, if we have a problem, he logs into his iPad, pulls up the name of the church, the product. He can see every parameter, make the adjustments, log out.
Right.
No matter where he's at in the world.
Right. And that's the kind of stuff our kids do every day, and they don't even know it's cool. I mean, that's just how they live, right?
Yeah.
Not every kid, but first kids, they are exposed to all those new technologies. And it's just especially for kids in a place like Mountain Home, nothing against Mountain Home, but it's a pretty rural, isolated place. Well, these kids have gone to New York. They've traveled all over the country. They're going to Washington, D.C. next week to meet with their actual 4 congressmen and 2 senators. That's a really huge opportunity that kids even in bigger schools don't get because of this program, because we have a global focus, it's a big community, and it's about collaboration. We're not about keeping our idea to ourselves, but we're about everybody doing the best they can do and collaborating, and everybody coming up with the best idea going forward.
But what I'm seeing here is just with a little bit more appropriation money, what you can do for these young people at this young age is the next 100, 150 to 200 years of technology, national security, financial is at hand right here in how to control that.
Oh, right. And I mean, we're running out of new ideas for the Chinese to steal from us. So, I mean, maybe I could get them to come in and help us lobby for this because we're just, all the cool things that have been created, they may be manufactured in China, but all the really cool cutting edge technology for the past 150 years has come out of America. And it needs to keep coming out of America. And the students that we have, these are the kids that are going to be doing that. It's not right for the security of our country for these students to not have the tools that they need to be able to develop these technologies to keep our defense strong, our monetary system strong, our banking system secure. Identity theft is huge. All these problems we have are solved with technology.
Yeah. Well, I remember a story back in about 1969, 1970, where Ampex Corporation, that's the big manufacturer at the time of recording equipment,
right,
had come up with a tabletop video cassette recorder that we knew as a VCR. But being based in Redwood City, California, they looked for investors, and the American investor says, now, wait a minute. You want us to invest in a device where you think people will buy this thing and put it in their home and record a TV show to watch later? Yeah. They laughed at him and walked out. So they waited a couple years, and Hitachi and Toshiba came in, and they're again an American idea went overseas because we didn't have the vision to see what it could be. Now we've got TiVo and DVRs and all this, so we just hit a button and you can record whatever off of a good old computer hard drive, you know.
Right.
So I'd like to see where that's at in 25 years with these young people that's sitting here in the studio.
We heard our founder, Dean Kamen, came in and talked to us yesterday, and his main line that he just kind of reiterated with us over and over again was, do not lose the big vision. Do not lose the big vision for our country. And that's kind of got lost in the shuffle and lost in Facebook and lost in all the things that I use, and that's fine. But we're lost in the end result. We're not lost in the beginning of the next new thing.
So what do we do as general public where we don't deal with this on a daily basis, and you and your husband and your son do, to bring awareness to not only Mountain Home, but perhaps into the smaller communities, Cotter, Norfolk, and then
and the smaller communities is one of the best places that we can place these teams because the kids aren't being pulled in 50 different directions by all these other programs. And in fact, this legislation we're trying to get passed, the ESEA reauthorization with the Franken-Murray-Kirk Amendment, the Franken-Murray-Kirk Amendment was added in the Senate. It came out of committee unanimously. It's a very bipartisan, attractive bill that's coming out of the Senate, and it would allocate money, not new money, reallocate current dollars to state education departments so that schools could apply for grants for after-school technology-based programs like FIRST. And it would be given preference to rural, underserved communities with less advantage for their students. So, you know, your listeners in Cotter, your listeners in these rural areas, they need to call their congressmen, call their senators, and especially the House members. The House write-up of this bill is pretty partisan, so they're going to need to kind of come up with a better compromise, which I think they're kind of doing behind closed doors because they're going to be voting on this like week after next. So our timing is really good. We're hoping to get this passed by December. The No Child Left Behind reauthorization, or the fixes for No Child Left Behind, is what this is. This hasn't been done since 2002.
Do you know the number of that House bill?
They've been trying for 13 years. I don't. It's ESEA, and John Taylor and Hannah probably know the number. They can look it up.
Okay,
I'm standing in the hallway on my phone.
I've got an interview with Congressman Crawford tomorrow that will air, I believe, on the 20th of June. So that would be something I need to add. Yeah, John Taylor.
Yeah, and we're going to meet with him on the 16th. So we meet with him at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the 16th. And I can send you the number of the House bill. I should know that. Have John Taylor look it up on his phone. But it's the Elementary and Secondary Education Act reauthorization. It's basically the fixes for the No Child Left Behind. I mean, No Child Left Behind gets a bad rep. Not everything was bad in it. It had some stuff that was bad in it, and this is trying to fix that. But the main thing we're going to support is this Franken-Murray-Kirk. I mean, just look at the names on that. Franken, Murray, and Kirk. I mean, that's a very broad spectrum of, I mean, Al Franken. We're going up there to support Al Franken's legislation. But he's right on this, okay? Let's be clear. If somebody's right, they're right. I don't care what party they're in.
Well, broken clock's right twice a day, you know.
Exactly. So this broken clock we're going up there to support because it's we have FIRST has lobbyists. Now they pretty much donate their time, but they have been working very diligently to get this type of legislation passed. So we were there a year ago, and this hadn't even happened yet. So it's a long play. Yep. You know, getting things through the Senate and the Congress is hard. It takes a long time. It's very complicated and tedious. And so you just have to be very plodding and slow and deliberate and push and push and push. And so we're kind of on the edge of actually getting something done.
Yep.
So it's nice to have an actual bill they can vote for instead of an idea. Now the immigration, the H-1B visa problems, the immigration, the tax laws, those are all just still dreams and ideas. But this is an actual piece of legislation that people can encourage their senators and congressmen to support.
Very good. I appreciate you calling in this morning. We're visiting with Meredith Novak, Arkansas Regional Director of FIRST, F-I-R-S-T. Currently calling in from New Hampshire. She's at a meeting today. And we're going to continue this conversation later with John Taylor Novak and Hannah Plumley right after the break. Thanks, Meredith, for calling in today.
Thank you. I'm going to ring off, okay?
Okay, see you later. Bye-bye.
The kids got it. Thanks. Bye.
We'll be right back. $7:35. Now we have in studio John Taylor Novak and Hannah Plumley. We're going to continue the discussion about FIRST and the robotics. And you've been in it for a long time, haven't you, John Taylor?
Right. Yeah, I've been in about 15 years, spectating and participating.
So most of your life has been dealt with this, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So what have you seen in technology just in these 15 years?
Well, I know that we've personally gone from a Windows 98 computer that would be astronomically slow by today's standards to quad-core CPUs being common everywhere. The competition itself has increased the technology a lot since then. Back then, we were using all analog controls, and everything was analog pretty much. And now it's all digital sensors, sensors that calibrate without even using programming anymore. And it's really cool how much has changed since 2002.
So you can understand where I'm coming from, because I can remember when my dad was working the Mercury Gemini spacecraft program and then some of the other aircraft programs in the early to mid 60s and late 60s. In those days, he'd come home and says, wow, we had to have some information out of the computer, so I had to get a taxi and go to the computer building. Literally. I mean, they had the computer building at this aircraft plant. Now you've got more technology in your phone than what the aircraft manufacturing plant in St. Louis had in the 60s. So what do you see 20 and 25? So you're what, 18, 19, 20 years old now?
18.
18. 20 years from now when you're 38, where you see technology and what you have learned to benefit the United States. I know we're talking national security. We're talking like your mom said on the call-in, national security, financial, scammers. What's out there? What's your vision? And Hannah, join in anytime, Hannah.
Well, Moore's law says that about every 18 months, computer power will either double, halve in price, or halve in size. So all those are almost guaranteed to happen. So 30 years from now, you can expect computers that are, 12 times as powerful as they are now, which is really exciting. Well, I guess that would roll over 2, 4, 8, 16 times. And so with the computing power that's 16 times as powerful, when you have more powerful computers, you also have more ability to come up with new ideas. Because like right now, for example, whenever I'm working on a computer, working on computer models, it sometimes takes a long time to make a good render. And also editing videos, you have to sit there and wait 30 minutes for each render. As computing increases, it can keep up with the human mind per se. Computers are good at doing calculations, but they still can't do thinking. And so once they can catch up with the human mind's thinking, then I think that there will be a lot of new ideas and new ways to manufacture with new 3D printing manufacturing. Starting in the new, computers were 1980, 3D printers were 2005, so we're really in the 1995 of 3D printing right now, where they became really popular. So hopefully that'll keep carrying on in 30 so years from now. What
about an automotive? That's my field. I love that field, automotive. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you, years ago, I was reading one of these scientific magazines that said, go ahead and close that hand up, getting some feedback off the monitors out in the lobby, that eventually cars would have some type of laser device that every highway would have a laser interactive feature. So let's say that I wanted to program to go to Busch Stadium in St. Louis. My beginning point would be Mountain Home, Arkansas, and I would program it into the computer for that car to take me to Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Do you see that happening? Do you see something like that?
Absolutely. I don't know if it'll be an infrastructure change like lasers on the roads or anything, but there are already Mercedes and Freightliner trucks, Freightliner coming from the United States, where the truck driver can go onto the highway, set it into cruise, and then actually fall asleep while driving, and it's perfectly safe because of all the sensors on board, proximity sensors keeping your distance from the cars, line sensors following the highway lines everywhere. I don't really know for sure, but I think it can actually pass cars too.
Really?
And it's completely legal and completely safe. So that stuff is already happening. And the Google Street View car driving around in California, those kind of projects are coming now. So within the next 10 or 15 years, really, it seems like cars will be a lot more automated. They may not be drive from your driveway to drive to Busch Stadium per se, but once you're on the highway or even on smaller state highways, that would help a lot of us here. They can drive automatically within the legal constraints even, so that tempting speeding doesn't happen as often, and they might be able to raise the speed limits and that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
It's because everybody be going the same speed.
Sure.
And so that would make it a lot easier to travel, and it would also make it a lot cheaper to fly because the more people would be driving. So that would just be a overall huge positive influence, and I really do think it'll be happening really soon.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking, listening to you talk. When I was 8, 9, 10, perhaps, cartoons like Dick Tracy, he had a watch. Dick Tracy calling Jiu-Jitsu. That's reality now. You know, back then, oh, wouldn't that be so cool to talk into your watch and be able to talk to somebody? Look at the Jetsons. Remember the cartoon, The Jetsons? Have you ever seen that? It's all about scientific robotics, and at that time it was 100 years into the future where he's got the flying car and the robot that talks. I mean, that's happening now.
Right. The thing that I think most people see a little bit differently than how it is, they'll look at things and say, oh, we're going to have holograms in 50 years. Oh, you know, we're going to have talking watches. Well, the thing is, we might have something that's like a hologram really soon. We will probably have self-driving cars, but it's not just going to be, oh, look, we suddenly have holograms. It might be something like, you know, a 3D screen becoming more and more 3D until eventually, oh, look, we kind of just have a hologram.
Mm-hmm.
Technology usually doesn't make huge jumps and huge leaps. It slowly increases. So the talking watch thing was a byproduct of cell phones getting more and more advanced, computers getting more and more advanced, computers getting small enough that they can fit in, you know, a large box, and then a smaller box, and a laptop, then a cell phone, and now a watch. So a lot of the new technologies are going to happen. They're just going to happen slowly and slowly. And having you know, people that are more prepared to work on that and make ideas for that, or we're gonna keep that coming faster and faster.
Mm-hmm. Hannah, you've been kind of quiet over there. What do you see in the future for young women that could be helped by future technology?
Well, I think as we move along as in society, even women are pretty much equal with men right now, and all of these programs like FIRST and just science in general, I think a lot of the new inventions will come from women, even obviously some from men and women, but I think all those people out there like feminists and everyone who really wants to see women go further, I mean, I think getting involved in STEM fields, science, technology, that's really important. So
What about in medical?
yeah, medical too, because a lot of men or a lot of doctors are men, and I think more women now are getting involved in medical fields, but there's definitely need.
So, taking my time here. I ask a lot of politicians this question, but I think it's going to be appropriate here. If you had a genie in a bottle and you got 3 wishes, and you could apply it only to your first program in your robotics and what you want to do for the future, what would you wish for that you could accomplish with what you've already learned?
Well, one of them would be to have more teams, and especially more teams that are competitive, just not just in our state, but everywhere. Because the more people that get access to programs like FIRST, the more they'll be able to see the world for what it really is. They won't think, oh, I have to stay at home and go to college. They'll suddenly open their minds and see, wow, there are colleges all over the country that I could go to, just spending a little bit more money or even getting a full ride to places. I don't have to go to a state school if I don't want to. So those people having those opportunities, more people having those opportunities, I should say, are really what I would wish for from anybody and for the program.
Hannah?
I would wish to get it more out there because a lot of people, even at our school, I mean, there are people, even in my grade, that if you mention like the bomb squad or robotics, they have no idea what you're talking about. And so I think it would be really awesome to get it more out there and kind of advertise the program more. I've been seeing it on news channels, on the internet, and everywhere now. So it's really awesome. So I kind of think we're kind of getting that wish right now.
Yeah.
And I guess the third thing would be I kind of wish people would have more of an open mind about it. Sometimes when you talk to people at school or even talk to business owners, they'll just think, or the kids at school will think, oh, I'm not smart enough for this, I can't do this, and then they'll just give up before they even try.
Don't they
And
drive
then-
you up the wall?
Oh, it makes me a little bit annoyed because I know that you don't even, I mean, once you see it, you might get hooked, you might not, that's okay, but at least get yourself out there and look at it for what it is, because you can get yourself to
Challenge
college
your
anywhere.
thinking is what you're saying.
Hmm. And then business owners and things, sometimes we'll talk to them and they'll just be completely uninterested. And at least they'll let us talk to them. But sometimes we contact companies over and over and over and they just can't get anything through. And so I kind of wish people had more of an open mind so they wouldn't necessarily be supportive in the end, but they'll at least look at it. The people that don't look at it are kind of our problem now. Like at school, whenever we talk to people who we think would genuinely be interested, people who like technical things, they'll think, oh, I'm not smart enough for that. I can't build a robot. Well, that's the point of the program.
You couldn't either until you got into it.
Right.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break, visit with John Taylor Novak and Hannah Plumley. Is it called FIRST or FIRS?
First.
FIRST. The robotics.
First robotics competition is
First
our large
robotics
competition.
Okay. Be right back. We're going to take a quick break. 7:49 on a Wednesday. We're visiting with Hannah Plumley and John Taylor Novak with First Robotics. And before I let, of course, we want to do a little fundraising here, folks. Help these kids out with the First Robotics. One question I've got: have you seen in history the videotape replays of the Zapruder film of when President Kennedy was assassinated in 1963? Do you remember seeing the limo go by and Kennedy grabbing his throat, and then of course the fatal shot to the head? Do you think there'll ever be technology enough to reanalyze that short film clip? That was a little home movie camera clip, and to take in all the evidence of the Warren files and the FBI reports to actually find out who really killed John Kennedy?
That happened in 1964, right?
Three.
November, okay.
November 63.
So in 2038, all the records about that will have to be released, and I do think that by then that'll happen.
Really?
Mhm.
Yeah. Why 2038? Was that 100 year, 80 year? Well,
74 years.
74 years.
Yeah, after I think the government has a policy that after 74, or maybe 75, 74 years, all the public records have to be released because then it doesn't become political anymore.
Right.
Like World War II is
Yeah.
pretty not political anymore.
Right.
Fewer and fewer people have opinions about, Truman, Herbert, and FDR,
Did-
and Hoover, that sort of thing.
Didn't Carolyn Kennedy try to get that changed to 100 years?
I
to
can't
protect-
remember.
I don't know. Anyway, you need to do some fundraising.
Yeah, that's right.
Send us some money.
We're sending 12 people to DC to try to talk to our senators and congressmen about this bill. It's called the National Advocacy Conference that we're going to. It's just us and a few other first teams that are going to be sponsoring this legislation. And unfortunately, in today's age, traveling is expensive.
Yep.
So we're trying to find $9,000 from anybody who's willing to support us. And so if you are willing to support us, feel free to visit our website at baxterbombsquad.com. And from there, you can send us an email, and we can get you on the line of how you can donate money. If you feel like mailing a check, I guess you can mail order to STG, Science and Technology Group. And I'm not really sure who you should send that to. I guess 35 Studio Lane, Mountain Home, Arkansas. Be a good address to send that to if you have any checks. So any support is needed and would be greatly appreciated.
Have I understood? Let's see, you're going to be visiting with Senator Cotton, Bozeman, then House Representatives be Westerman,
French
Crawford.
Hill.
I think, is French going to be? I thought he was going to be gone.
We're meeting with his staffers.
Okay, the staffers, yeah. Everybody else, you're going to meet with the entire Arkansas Coalition then.
Mhm.
Wow.
We have more meetings than we did last year. 3 of us went last year, and we got to meet with, I think, Pryor, Senator Pryor, and Congressman Womack,
Mhm.
and I think the other ones were staffers. So this
Really?
year we've got a lot bigger turnout for our meetings
Good. Yeah.
in Bozeman.
And
Senator
yeah,
Bozeman
Wow.
last year.
This is, it's interesting to me because I've seen the changes in technology, and what's funny is, I when I listen to music, I still play records,
Right.
and it's funny to see young people not even know what that is, to see how recorded music has progressed, to see how video has progressed.
Even since the time that iPods and MP3 players came out, now we're all using internet radio.
Mhm.
So it doesn't even require having any even digital music. There's not
Yeah.
even digital music solid anymore. It used
Yeah.
to be you'd have records and you'd have CDs.
Yeah.
And some people would have DVDs for their music, and then it went to having files, and now it's just all online on the internet. 'Cause
Mhm.
it's so accessible.
Yeah, it's amazing how things have changed in the smaller packages, and even in medical. I'm down to about a minute and a half, but medical, somebody, and I don't know what city it was in, somebody was in a hospital, and they had a monitor where doctors all around the country could monitor that patient and say, hey, we've got a problem here, we've got a problem here. And not just having one doctor walk in every 6 hours and say, oh, well, your temperature's up a half degree. They were in this monitor, and the computers are constantly checking every vital. And doctors in various places are saying, hey, we've got a problem here, we've got a problem there. The advances in medical and in automotive and my interest and media, blows me away. It's amazing.
And all that revolves around the growing technical infrastructure. As computers get better, we can do more with them.
Yeah. Final minute. Hannah, your final thoughts.
Well, I mean, just please help us get to Washington. I mean, this is going to be an awesome opportunity for all the kids, and it'll be really neat for them, and
Yeah.
also it'll help push to get more funding for STEM fields, and just like John Taylor said, BaxterBombSquad.com, send us an email, and we'll hook you up.
Right, and if this goes through, all the teachers who support science and technology fields will have an elevated teaching status,
Mhm.
and also there will be a lot more funding for not just FIRST, but programs like FIRST that could help
Well, it
students.
needs to happen. It's good to have the basics, the reading, writing, and mathematics. But I agree with the hands-on. That's how I learned to do front-end alignment on cars. Sure, I went and read the books and did the studies, but until I got in the garage
Mhm.
and took a front end out of a car and put a new front end under and then realigned it. There it is.
Right.
Yep.
Our
There-
program does just that.
There you go. John Taylor Novak and Hannah Plumley, of course, Meredith Novak calling in from New Hampshire this morning. Thank you for being here. We'll be back tomorrow, everybody. Hope you have a great day. See you then.